Fears are nothing more than states of mind. We are on chapter 14 of Think and Grow Rich, How to Outwit the Sixth Ghost of Fear. Hello, I'm Carla, psychotherapist and mindset coach, and on this channel, I help you get unstuck and reach your goals by exploring topics that shift your mindset so you can live your highest potential. Well, here we are, everyone. We are on the last chapter of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and I'm reading from the condensed version, Think and Grow Rich in 10 Minutes a Day. Chapter 14, How to Outwit the Sixth Ghost of Fear. This is one of the most powerful chapters in this entire book, and so let's dive in. Thought impulses of fear and poverty cannot be translated into terms of courage and financial gain. The six basic fears. Fears are nothing more than states of mind. Everything is just a state of mind. Everything is just a projection of what we got going in here. We have just been conditioned and taught to be in a state of fear. Yeah, there's a spectrum. And so we might be a little bit fearful or a lot of bit fearful, and we might go, come and go on this spectrum. But the majority of people in this world are driven by fear. They live from a fear-based place. I sure did. And I still have to really be careful of what my thoughts are telling me, what I'm surrounding myself with. Is this fear-based or is it love-based? In order to implement the 13 success principles effectively, you must extinguish three enemies that thwart the system's functioning: indecision, doubt, and fear. My goodness, when I read that, those are all the things that I was a prisoner to. It had a chokehold on me. Indecision, doubt, and fear, that is truly what ran my life for the first 30 years. These three negative states of mind are interrelated. Indecision hardens into doubt, which then becomes fear. They are extremely insidious because they attack the subconscious and, as such, often grow while resisting detection. Wow. Although they are intangible forces that exist only in the mind, they wreak more havoc on humankind than any real enemy. Let's just think about times in our life where we've struggled, or if we watch somebody else struggle. From the outside, they have everything they need. When it comes to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they have food, shelter, safety, clothing. And so to an onlooker, it's like, why are we so upset? Because it's something deeper that's within us that we're missing. We can't be grateful for what we have. It's a poison of the mind. There's people in this world that don't have clean running water. They don't have sustainable housing, but yet they're joyous and happy. And there's people with everything. They live in palaces and they're suicidal. So is it the outside circumstances that dictate our inward? No, it's the inward states that dictate the outer circumstances, or our experience of it rather. In order of most to least common, the six basic fears are fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love, fear of old age, and fear of death. Any other fear not listed can be categorized into one of these broader groups. The first three are responsible for most of the worries in the world, which were poverty, criticism, and ill health. So being poor, afraid of what other people think, and being sick. But the dominance of one or more fears in society is a cyclical phenomenon. Times of recession augment the fear of poverty, while times of pandemic heighten the fear of ill health and death. Y'all. Hello. This book was written in 1937, and he spent 20 years writing it. So really it started in what? 1915, 1917. There was different pandemics at that time. There was the big stock market crash. And he's saying that, wow, these patterns of humanity, these cycles of fear that control and take over people's lives are still very much here today. The potency of these fears is great for the same reason that the steps to riches described in this book are so effectual. Thought impulses that are heavily emotionalized seek outlet in physical form. Let's really listen to that. Thought impulses that are heavily emotionalized seek outlet in physical form. In other words, if you focus on or allow into your mind fears, you will be actively working to realize them. I have lived this truth, this horrendous truth, so many times. I always use the analogy of riding a motorcycle. If you've ever ridden a motorcycle, you know that wherever your eyes go is where the steering wheel is going to go. That's where the bike is going to go. So that's why if you're going off an off-ramp on a freeway, you can't look at the road in front of you. You have to look at the exit of where you want to go. And that's scary because I remember doing my training for my motorcycle license. You have to bob and weave through the cones, the orange cones. Well, what was I focusing on? The orange cones. What did I keep hitting? The orange cones. The trick was to focus on the space in between the cones because that's where I was going to go. Wherever my focus was is where the bike went. And so I want you to just imagine being in a dark night and you have your motorcycle and it has a headlight and it's shining right in front of you. And so you know wherever the headlight is shining, that's where your steering is going. And so say it's dark and right in front of you is a huge tree. You're heading straight for it. How are you going to avoid that? Turn the steering wheel. It's like our thoughts. We are a fast-paced motorcycle going head on to whatever thoughts is right in front of us, whatever situation we're focused on. And a lot of times it's so horrendous and so scary and we're so fearful of it, we just can't take our eyes off it. Have you ever heard the saying of like, it's like a train wreck, I can't take my eyes off of it? We're obsessed. We have no discipline of thought. When we are headed straight to a thought that doesn't make us feel good, we're going to run right into it. We must turn the steering wheel of our mind. We have to be the master of this ship in our mind and let it be guided by thoughts that feel good, destinations that we actually want to arrive at instead of the ones we fear to arrive at, because it's guaranteed we will arrive there. It might not match exactly like the thought of the situation we were afraid of, but guarantee it, we will feel that way. It will find a way to actualize in this physical world. It'll find expression. That's why these things, when they say thoughts are things, mind your heart, say positive affirmations, think on positive things. This is not just woo-woo or personal development. This is a matter of life and death. I'm a psychotherapist. I work with people who are suicidal. They're miserable. I was miserable. I was addicted. I had depression. It's a terrible place to be internally. And those thoughts can still creep in, but we have a choice. We have a choice to choose where we direct our thoughts. Intrusive thoughts will come in. Of course, we can't control every single thought that pops in our mind, but we can control the ones that we stay emotionally involved with, the ones that we focus on. I found in my life and in my client's life, we give too much credence. We give too much authority. We have so much reverence for the thoughts that come in our mind that we feel like, well, the thoughts in my mind, I have to deal with it. No, you don't. It's called boundaries. Do you know how we have boundaries with people in our life? If there was an intruder that came into our physical space, it's like, excuse me, get out of my space, get out of my house if there was an intruder. Think of that with like intrusive thoughts. If it's a thought that does not make you feel good, that scares you, push it out. If it's there to give you information, take the information and then push it out. But you do not have to have dinner with it, sit with it, entertain it, and take it for a cup of coffee. Most intrusive thoughts are not there to inform you of something important. Our emotions do that. Our physical body does that. But again, even with that, if it's a negative emotion that's trying to give you information, take the information it's trying to give you and get to it. Take action. Throw the thought out. Don't let it surround your home, your inner home. It will take over. All right. In other words, if you focus on or allow into your mind fears, you will be actively working to realize them. And remember, both actively and passively received thoughts can permeate the subconscious to compel it to act. So the failure to control your thoughts by feeding your subconscious only positive thoughts while filtering out destructive ones received from the environment is just as bad as using the principle of autosuggestion against yourself. Oh my goodness. This is, I think, whatever, I'm dropping my pen. I'm so excited. I think that this is the problem that most people have. I sure did. That's why when people surround themselves with positive affirmations and just listen to things, they are actively doing that, auto-suggesting positive things. But if we're just filtering out or ignoring all the negative stimulus that's around us, or the ones that already existed in our head, those weed seeds, and we do not actively throw them out, we just let them passively be there, all of the positive things won't matter because we must weed out the negative things. Let me read that again. Both actively and passively received thoughts can permeate the subconscious to compel it to act. So the failure to control your thoughts by feeding your subconscious only positive thoughts while filtering out destructive ones received from the environment is just as bad as using the principle of autosuggestion against yourself. It is entirely within an individual's control to regulate his or her mind and to admit only constructive impulses. Wow. All right, he goes on to talk about fear and poverty. Verdict. The fear of poverty is the most destructive of the 6 basic fears because it is the most difficult to master. Y'all, the fear of poverty is the most destructive of the 6 basic fears. You know, it's hard to be poor. Poverty breeds a lot of struggle and pain. It really does. Wow. The sources of fear of poverty. This fear derives from the tendency of some avaricious human beings to take advantage of others for their own economic gain, especially during difficult economic times, and the suffering that poverty entails, including the blow to one's ego that it causes. Result: a willingness to accept poverty sends you on a one-way journey toward the end. Symptoms: indifference, lack of ambition. Oh, so this is when we fear poverty. Symptoms include indifference, lack of ambition, Indecision, not thinking for oneself. Doubt, making excuses for one's failures. Worry, negativity directed toward oneself, often resulting in self-destructive behaviors like overspending and intemperance, drinking, drugs, promiscuity, and others in the form of criticism. Overcautiousness, focusing on chances of failure and hesitating to act. Holy moly, this is so good. Now moving on to fear of criticism, the verdict. The fear of criticism destroys one's creative faculties, one's ability to think for oneself, and one's initiative. The fear of criticism, fear of what other people will think or say about what you're doing, this holds so many people back. Providing criticism does nothing but sow fear and resentment. Love and constructive feedback, on the other hand, yield a growth mindset. So let's really discern what is loving feedback and what is just criticism or hate. You know, when we experience haters or people who are jealous or people who aren't happy with their life, so they're projecting onto you your limitations, well, really their limitations. Sources of the fear of criticism. This fear derives in part from the human tendency to take away what others have earned and then to justify one's actions by finding fault with their character. It is particularly prominent in individuals whose parents were highly critical of them in childhood, causing them to develop an inferiority complex. Refer to chapter 4 for how to overcome this. So true. So think about it. Were you highly criticized by your parents, or did you have teachers or coaches that were really hard on you, that really broke you down? You might be consciously confident, but subconsciously, do you really fear? Do you have a lack of confidence due to being put down a lot or questioning yourself? The result of fear of criticism, in its smaller forms, it manifests as a compulsion to conform to the norms and styles of the day. On a grander scale, it leads to fear of openly questioning doctrine and dominant narratives. So when the result of fear of criticism is we don't want to take risks. We want to be just like everybody else, follow the trends. We don't want to stand out. We do not want eyes on us. We don't want to be original. We don't want to be seen. Wow, that's so important. Symptoms of the fear of criticism: self-consciousness, social awkwardness and shyness, meekness, body language and vocal intonation resulting from nervousness around others, indecision, inability to form opinions and express firm positions, inferiority complex, overcompensating with personal appearance and other means of self-presentation to impress others. We see this all the time. People with lack of confidence, fear of criticism, they spend all their money and they try extra hard to come off, whether it be the car, the big truck, the watch, to compensate for what they feel inadequate for. Extravagance, spending beyond one's means to conform to the norms and styles of the day, overspending so you can keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. Lack of initiative, hesitancy to take action, lack of ambition, succumbing to temporary defeat too readily, and a general laziness toward personal and professional achievement. Oof. He goes on to talk about all of the 6 ghosts of fear, and what he's doing is he's giving us the verdict, the sources, the results, and the symptoms of each. So I might break this up into 2 parts. So I'm actually going to end it there. Out of the 6 ghosts of fear: poverty, criticism, health, love, old age, and death, we went over today poverty and criticism. I will do videos on health and love, and then I might do another video on old age and death. So this chapter 14, how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear, will be 3 different videos. Again, we went over poverty and criticism today. The next video will be health and loss of love. And then the 3rd video will be old age and death, fear of death. Wow, so that was the verdict, the fear of poverty, the verdict, the sources, the result, and the symptoms, and then fear of criticism, the verdict, sources, result, and symptoms. On the next video, we will cover the fear of ill health and the fear of loss of love. I hope you enjoyed that. As always, thank you for spending your time with me. If you are a fan of Napoleon Hill and you want to dive deeper and you really want to get serious about your personal development, I am a certified coach at the Napoleon Hill Institute. We work closely with Don Green, who is a CEO at the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and we are working to bring all of Napoleon Hill's writings and teaching and success principles and philosophy to the world. We're doing really exciting things. So there's links below if you want to check out any of the programs and really dive deep into your personal development. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.